Aiming is easily the most important skill when it comes to any shooter style video game, such as Call of Duty, and specifically in Warzone, a battle royale game that has a moderately long time to kill, it's even more important. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you my top 5 tips to improve your aim in Call of Duty Warzone, and many of these tips can provide near instant improvement if implemented correctly. However, I do want to be clear that achieving extremely good aim does take lots and lots of practice and some innate skill and talent as well. Tip number 1 actually occurs before we even shoot the gun, and that is centering. Most of you already know that having good centering involves keeping your crosshair at chest level of where enemies are likely to be. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. If our aim is pointed down towards the ground because maybe we're too focused on looting instead of shooting, then you'll have to adjust your aim to your target if an enemy comes around the corner or pops out in front of you. And that is going to be wasted time, but it also introduces a lot of room for error because we now have to quickly flick our aim and we can mess up on that. This allows the enemy player to get shots on us before we can start shooting them, which greatly decreases the chance of us winning the gunfight. But assuming you do a good job at just keeping your center dot at chest level, how can we take centering to the next level to really give us the upper hand to getting shots on first against our enemies? Let's say I have information that there's an enemy behind the corner or behind a door, maybe like a UAV ping or footstep audio. Or maybe I just have a feeling that someone's there and I want to just be on top of my game and assume someone might be around the corner. As I approach from farther away, let's say 10 to 15 meters beyond that point of where an enemy might come around, I should probably have my long range gun out like an assault rifle, battle rifle, LMG. I want to keep my crosshair just to the side of the door or corner and not directly on that corner or door. That way, if an enemy comes sprinting around the corner, my crosshair should end up where that enemy will be once they fully come around that corner and are exposed. Since obviously he has to come through the doorway and that we're not going to be aiming directly on the doorway. This is a common mistake I see where people will center perfectly right on a corner or door, but when they come past that, they have to then correct their aim when someone comes through it. If the enemy still hasn't showed themselves and we get within to that 10 to 15 meters from that door, assuming that we're pushing towards the door, now we want to make sure that we have our SMG out or whatever our close range weapon is for that. We're going to keep the centering the same as before, not right on the corner or door, but just to the side of it. And we also want to make sure that we're not just sprinting blindly through that. That way we don't have to worry about the sprint to fire time where we have to pull that gun down. So try to slow down and walk, or even we can pre-aim and aim walk towards the door. This gives us the extra benefit of not making footstep noise as well if we aim walk. As we round the corner, it's important that our aim continues to center smoothly around the apex of the corner so that we're ready to react. If I have additional info like footstep audio or UAV pings, we can then center our aim towards that information so that we are more likely to get first shots. In sweatier, higher skilled lobbies such as ranked, generally whoever gets the first shot is the one that wins that gunfight. Advanced centering like this can take a long time to master because a lot of it will improve as your game awareness improves. Once you have better map knowledge and just being able to better react off different situations that you've seen before. Tip number 2 doesn't really involve aiming itself because this one actually has to do with using the left analog stick and not the right. Also, if you're a mouse and keyboard player watching this tip doesn't really apply to you much because it has to do with maximizing our aim assist. In Call of Duty, there are 2 types of aim assist. There's your standard aim slowdown, which basically lowers your sensitivity when you aim near a target. This prevents you from over aiming and going past them. And this type of aim assist is prevalent in most other shooter games. But Call of Duty has a second type of aim assist that really is what makes Call of Duty known for having some of the strongest aim assists compared to other shooter games, and that's called rotational aim assist. Rotational aim assist does not work if you're standing still. So the solution to make it work is quite easy. Don't stand still when you're shooting. The speed at which you're moving doesn't really matter though. You can even just walk forward into an object that prevents you from moving. As long as there is input on your left stick, it will trigger rotational aim assist. But I do have some tips for different situations. In close range fights, let's say 15 meters or less, my goal is to have maximum input on my left stick. Ideally to be moving left or right from my enemy. If an enemy is shooting at me and I'm simply walking towards them or away from them while shooting, they don't really have to do all that much to correct their aim and hit their shots on me. But if I'm strafing to the left or right, now they have to adjust their aim and track my movements. Think about times when you run into a very sweaty player with good movement. You probably miss a ton of shots on them because they're moving around so much. Well, that's the same concept here, but we just need to strafe left or right. And you can feel free to mix it up. Maybe start one direction and then change the directions. As you become more and more advanced, you can use it to your advantage and strafe in and out of cover as well. Not only will it make it harder for your enemies to shoot you, but now if we're strafing and moving the left stick, we're gonna get that extra rotational aim assist. But what about at farther ranges? So anything beyond about 15 meters, my goal is to just have a little bit of input on my left stick. And if they're not shooting back at me, it could just be moving straight forward or backwards, since I don't have to worry about them shooting at me. And that's just so that I can engage that rotational aim assist. The big take home here is just don't stand completely still and always have some input on that left stick. Pro tip though, snipers, including the Kar 98, do have rotational aim assist, but it's weaker than ARs, LMGs, and so on. Also, when you are strafing while aiming down a big sniper scope, that scope bobs and sways a lot. So for sniping, you don't necessarily want to be moving while shooting. Tip number 3 is our final tip that doesn't really involve aiming itself, but instead it has to do with our controller. And again, mouse and keyboard players, I'm sorry. If you're using a standard controller like this, the analog sticks are quite small. This doesn't give us a lot of room to make very fine precision movements, such as lining up a long snipe or tracking someone from far away. And this is where mouse and keyboard players actually have an advantage, because they have their entire mouse pad to make these really fine, precise adjustments. But there is a simple thing that we can do to give us more area to aim, and that is to have a taller right stick. And for this though, there's gonna be a few different options that we can do. First, and the cheapest option, is gonna be purchasing something called a control freak. That is just an extension of your right stick, and it just pops onto your analog stick. These are like 15 bucks. You can get them in places like Walmart, Best Buy, or online like Amazon. I'm not affiliated with them, but I have used them in the past, and I definitely did enjoy using them. They come in different sizes, colors, shapes. One of the more popular ones, I believe, is called the Galaxy Control Freak, but there are plenty of others. The only downside to these is that they can pop off or fall off accidentally, and that is not very good to happen when you're in the middle of a gunfight. The second option though is what I use, and that is a custom controller, and the brand is called AIM Controllers, and I've been using this brand for well over 2 years now. With them, they have different size sticks that kind of come built in. So this is a small, whereas this is a tall, and there's also a medium. But the cool thing is these, you don't have to worry about falling off. These are much more secure, although you can change them out for different sizes in case you don't like one. AIM controllers also have 4 reprogrammable paddles on the back that you can bind any button to. So for me, my X, square, circle, triangle are all bound to these paddles here. And this makes things like movement, like slide canceling, jumping while shooting, plating, reloading, much easier to do, because I don't have to take my thumb off the analog stick to hit those buttons. I can be aiming and moving simultaneously. Another benefit is their mouse click triggers, which makes L2 and R2 super responsive. And you can also get these in L1, R1, which I have installed in mine. But what is even better is that you can toggle this on and off. So you hit these buttons, now we have a full trigger pull. If you want to play like a different type of game, maybe a racing game, or we can go back and now we have our mouse click triggers. And this makes shooting semi-auto guns like pistols way easier and faster to do. AIM also comes with a lifetime warranty on all of the modded parts. So if one of your buttons or paddles break, you send it in and they fix it. You just pay for the shipping. Recently, AIM is also now guaranteeing a 15-day build time. So within 15 days of ordering, that controller is going to be done and on its way. Now I am partnered with AIM controllers, and my code TCaptainX will save you some serious cash at checkout. The discount varies per month, so you'll have to check the website to see what the code is. I think right now you can save up to 30% off with the code depending on how much you spend. So there is plenty of money to be saved here. If you do elect to go with either a control freak or an AIM controller, give yourself just a little bit of time to get used to it, because it will be a little bit awkward at first to have that taller right analog stick, but usually within just a few days, you'll really notice that extra room you have to aim. And basically everyone I've ever recommended this to has seen huge benefits, especially for a longer range aim. Our final 2 tips have more to do with aiming itself, and tip number 4 is all about recoil control. Before we cover this though, I want to make sure you guys are using the most optimal settings for recoil control, and that is actually going to be under our graphic settings under view. So for the field of view, we want this to be at least greater than 100. The bigger the number you hear, the less visual recoil you will have. However, your targets will appear smaller though. So just play around between about 100 to 120, but make sure we're higher than at least 100. For ADS field of view, make sure this is on affected, weapon field of view wide, and those are going to be the most important ones. I would also recommend though you turn off weapon motion blur, weapon world motion blur, and turn down the camera movements to least. If you're someone that struggles with recoil control, when picking your loadout, you're always going to be better off using a low recoil weapon versus a high damage but high recoil weapon. Now currently in Warzone, the best long range guns have both low recoil and high damage, which is the DTR 30-6 and the STG. I think the STG is probably best for beginners who struggle with recoil control, since the D tier has an incredibly slow fire rate. So here's my recommended low recoil STG build that is great for beginner to average level players. Once you have your loadout, first go to the firing range and shoot a full magazine into the wall or glass without touching your right stick. This will show you the gun's recoil pattern. So for the STG, it goes straight up for about the first half of the magazine, and then it veers a little bit up and to the right. All guns have relatively predictable recoil patterns, and most kick straight up and then usually veer either left or right slightly. So doing a quick recoil test like this can tell us which way we need to counter aim for the recoil. In the case of the STG, we mostly just need to pull straight down and then down and left, or opposite of the recoil pattern. To work on countering the recoil for beginners who struggle with controlling this, just pick a point on the wall and try to keep your aim in one spot by countering the recoil. Do this a few times in different spots and you can see how much you're improving each time to get a tighter bullet spread. If that's too easy, then we can put the dummies on 3 plates in the firing range settings and shoot either the second or third farthest dummy. When doing this, we can see our percentage accuracy in the top left corner. This resets each time we step up and away from the firing range as well. So start with like the second dummy, shoot 5 to 10 dummies and see what your accuracy rating is. From here, you can either reset and try it again to see if you're improving, or you can go on to the third dummy for a little bit harder difficulty. And again, do this maybe 5 to 10 times, then reset and go back and see if you can improve your accuracy rating. This is a simple but objective way of testing how your recoil control and accuracy are improving. It's also good to do this and compare guns. So if you consistently shoot maybe 10% higher with the STG compared to the D tier, the STG is probably better for you to use, even though if all the other YouTubers and streamers are saying that the D tier is better. And if you want to do the same thing but work on for SMGs, probably just stick to the first or second dummies, since you're never really going to need to be shooting your SMG at 50 meters and beyond, which is where the third dummy is. The final tip number 5, is really my bread and butter and what I mostly attribute to having my good aim in Call of Duty. That is my short and sweet warm-up routine that I do every day before playing that can take as little as 5 to 10 minutes. For this to function properly, we do need to own the MW3 multiplayer version for this. You can do this in other respawn-based Warzone modes like Purgatory, Plunder, or Lockdown, but it's not going to be nearly as effective. So from the main menu, go to the multiplayer thing and scroll all the way over until we get to private match and hit create private match. Once it loads and these menu buttons unlock, go to game setup, and for our mode, we're going to do free for all. Let's skip the map because we're going to talk about that a little bit later and go over to the rules. Under the game tab, you can adjust the time limit and score limit as much or as little as you want in case you want to have a hard set, or just go really, really high so that you don't have to worry about it. For our max health, turn this up to 300, since that is what is going to be closest to Warzone health will be. And for our health regen, I like to turn this up to fast, but that is optional. Under team, this is also optional, but I like to put the radar always on, again, completely optional. And then under gameplay, for spawn ammo mags, put this to max. Health steal as on, this is a little bit optional, but this will basically make the time to kill longer, because when the enemies and bots shoot you, it will give you like a healing siphoning effect. And then finally, I like to turn kill streaks off so you just don't have to worry about it. Now for the map, this is going to depend what we're working on here. For the general quick warm-up, my favorite map to do is actually Training Facility, which is way down here at the bottom, but any of the shipment maps or whatever is perfectly fine. But if we're going to be working on specific things like longer range fights or especially sniping, then we're going to want to pick bigger maps. Maybe Wasteland would be a good one to work on sniping because it is such a large map. To add the bots, we need to scroll over here to the right side here and add bots here. If you're a beginner, starting at like 5 to 6 is probably all you need, but for myself, I usually do about 12 to 13. And then for the difficulty level, again, if you're a beginner to an average level player, recruit is perfectly fine, but I like to up mine to regular because the regular bots move around a little bit more and it forces you to track them. I don't really think going to hardened or veteran is worth it because it just gives the bots aimbot and you will just die a lot more to them. For the loadouts, I usually just do a double SMG class and I just use whatever is kind of the top 2 SMGs at the moment, but if you guys need loadouts loadouts. I post my top loadouts for each season and season reloaded update. So that is on my channel if you need those. Now, once we're in here, we're actually going to go into our settings, and it'll be under controller settings, and then under aiming, we're going to scroll down here, and we are going to actually turn our aim assist off. Quick little pro tip, you can actually save favorite settings here or quick settings. So I have my aim assist under one of those so I can very quickly get to it and turn it on and off. The reason for this is simple. Without aim assist, we have to be much more precise and accurate with our aim. And if we can get good aim with it,
I would probably have like a big text on screen that says like
much better feel for when your aim assist is kicking on and how to actually use it to your advantage. This is going to make your aim drastically better. If you've never done this, you will probably suck, and that's okay. Try to just slow down with your aim and don't overcorrect, because your sensitivity is going to feel faster than what it normally is, since aim assist will normally slow down our sensitivity. This is also a great time to start working on and practicing tip number 2, to always be strafing left and right during these gunfights with our left stick, even when that aim assist is off, because once we turn it back on, then we're really going to feel that rotational aim assist kick in. If you're looking for just a quick warm-up, you can do as few as 25 to 50 bots, and this can take you less than 5 minutes. But if you really want to work on improving, you can easily do 100 to 300 bots daily with no aim assist. On average, I do between about 50 to 100, which takes me 5 to 10 minutes, just depending on how much time I have. And once you're done though, I do recommend making sure you turn your aim assist back on and just killing at least a few bots so you can notice that difference with your aim assist on. And if you're new to this, you're gonna wanna kill a lot more with your aim assist on so that you can really get that feel for when you're strafing left and right and feeling that rotational aim assist kick on and off, to also make it a habit for when you're actually playing to always strafe while shooting. If you do this daily or just every time before you play, even just for like 5 minutes, I guarantee you'll see huge benefits in your aim. I've been preaching this method for a long time, and everyone that does this swears by it and is always thanking me for how much their aim has gotten better. One extra thing you can do is, if you want, instead of jumping into your first match as a Resurgence or Battle Royale match, whatever it is you play in Warzone, jump into a respawn mode like Purgatory or Plunder, and maybe just play for 5 to 10 minutes there, or like a match worth, and continue to practice, just because in those game modes, you're gonna get more gunfights and interactions than you probably would in Resurgence or Battle Royale. As a reminder, tips 1 through 3 can provide nearly instant improvement in your aim and the ability to win gunfights. But the real meat and potatoes of getting better at aim really just comes down to practice, which is more for tips 4 and 5. You can't just expect to be good at something unless you put time in and practice it. Now, settings like sensitivity, aim response curve type, and more are also extremely important when it comes to your aim. So if you need help with those, go click on the video that's on screen right now for my full settings video.